know, we've approved spending down the open space bond. It has been created in 2002, so it's been a very long time. And currently, well, as of August, I guess there was $87,900 some dollars, and so presumably the interest accruing. But because we approved to spend all of it, the finance office wants us to actually close that account, or what they call it. And then the money is being stored in some other line item for this project specifically. So we have a potential motion that we're supposed to agree to. It says something like to close out $969.03 as of August 31st, 2024, plus any additional earned interest to date for the purpose of the Mitchell Land Conservation Project that was approved on Resolution 2023-2024-40 on July 27th, 2024. So is that clear? We're basically saying, please close down, because I think the auditors looked at that, right? They don't like it just open-ended. So great. So it basically secures the money, but closes that, which is a big deal, because we've had that for a long time.
So you need a motion for that?
Yes, if you could just basically, someone could say yes.
So moved
whatever
what
I
she
said. Whatever I said. It's on the piece of paper here. Great. Have a second?
Second.
Great. Okay. Any more discussion? Yes.
One question. Is there a clause, or is there, if this project happens to fall through, is there a secure, are we sure that the money would go back for the same purposes as it was?
For open space?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically if it were to fall through, then the bond doesn't go through because the money won't be spent. So it won't be debited, it won't be dispersed, so you still have it.
Okay, why don't we add that clause
Yeah.
to this to say if for some reason this project goes through,
Yeah.
it would be reallocated to other land conservation projects
Yeah.
proposed by the Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you. All right, can we amend that? Whoever made the motion? Did you make the motion?
Yes, as amended by
As
Jane.
amended? Second?
Second.
Good, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Jeff.
Very
That was a
good.
good catch.
Thank you, Jane.
Very good. Did you get that, Sue? Okay, well, I didn't write down what he said, but you kind of got that, right?
Ellen said it better.
All right, I'll try to remember what I said later. All right, awesome. Okay, thank you. I wanted to get that done. So you're on.
Yes, so kind of first item of business,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, at the town council meeting, there was a first resolution reading on a kind of an issue on Railroad Street. So the new development across the street, it wasn't picked up during the site plan review process, but there's actually an easement there, slope easement, that butts Railroad Street going down onto the property, into the Railroad Street property. And really that land was taken, I think in the early 90s by DOT when they were redoing the South Main Street Bridge there. So the purpose was to, make sure that there was some sort of protection slope that going down from 152 down Railroad Street. So, so that once DOT did all the work, it was transferred over to the town, and ever since then, it's been in the town's possession. Unbeknownst to most folks. So anyways, this project got approved and they're building, and through more title research, it was found out that the easement still exists in part of the building, and some of its improvements are are on top of this easement. So right now, the request would be to either remove the easement, completely dissolve it, or adjust it so that it's not over the building. If you look in the kind of this section right here, I know it's a little hard to see, but there's improvements to help control for any type of slope erosion. There's a retaining wall there. There'll be a new sidewalk there as well on top of Railroad Street. There's stormwater improvements there, so kind of there's an O&M plan there to help for any type of erosion in the future. So there are elements there that protect the integrity of the slope. So the request from the property owner, the developer, is to either adjust it, so that easement's not on top of any of those improvements, or have it removed at all. Underwood, I thought I didn't include it in here, but we had Underwood take a look at it. Third-party engineer for the town, town engineer also looked at it, and they were of the opinion that it could be removed or adjusted because the improvements there, again, protect the quality of the slope, the grade there. So at town council, it was requested that the Conservation Commission take a look at it before they make a decision, if you had any comments, concerns, or whatnot. And so they can have that for their consideration.
So I'm a little slow. So is what I'm hearing that there's an easement to protect the slope?
Correct.
And what we're hearing is that other practices can be put on that along with some development that will address the erosion issues that the slope easement would have taken care of on its own. But other practices are being implemented?
Correct.
To kind of offset the development that's going to take place on it. Is that right?
Correct. So there are erosion control measures
Yeah.
being built, planned to be built, approved to be built right there that would
Which will
protect
help
the
offset
integrity. Correct.
the
So
impacts.
the idea is that it's no longer needed because, one, the property owner would be responsible for that in perpetuity, for that, under the site plan review approval. And two, it does meet the purpose of protecting that sloped area. So, one is there's redundancy there, and two, it does create a title issue because the easement is underneath the building too, right now.
What was the opinion of the town engineer to just remove it completely?
Remove or dissolve,
Dissolve,
either or.
dissolve.
Yeah, wherever the council.
Okay. But we're just recommending to the council to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
You mentioned there are other things they're doing to take place of the slope as it was first indicated. Do you know what any of those?
Yeah, there's a retaining wall there.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
just a big old cement
Yeah,
wall.
there's a retaining wall. There's grass, seeding grass, so, vegetation there to hold down the soil.
Yeah. So the other vegetation was removed, building built, cement wall, and they're going to put more
More vegetation.
vegetation.
Yeah.
And they're not increasing the slope. So are they increasing the steepness of the slope?
By default, right? Because
Well, if they're
there was the
building a-
slope, and then here comes the building, so.
But if they're building a retaining wall, not necessarily, because they might just be cutting into the slope.
I
and
think
then
they're
putting a
cutting into
retaining
it.
wall. What's
They
that?
cut into the slope.
And
Yeah,
they-
because it's a sidewalk top and then it's coming down. So the new entranceway into the building
Right.
would be,
So they're they're not taking the slope and making it steeper and then
No.
putting a retaining wall up into it. They're just taking the existing slope, cutting it off.
correct.
Often a slope might be there to help protect the integrity of the road, and the retaining wall presumably is designed to
Correct.
function properly.
And they'll be responsible, the owners of that property
Correct.
have to maintain it in perpetuity. so-
Correct.
We may need to go see it, but do we have to decide tonight? Is that the idea?
Ideally, it'd be nice, but you don't have to.
I
So
don't know,
we're
you
just
folks who
saying,
live, what do
What
you
if
guys
we
do?
say no? I mean, what's
Well,
the,
it's tough, because the building is built.
it's already
Yeah.
built, what's the
Well, yeah.
alternative?
I mean, I guess I would go on what the town engineer thinks, that she's the
Yeah.
one that knows, has the knowledge, and
Yeah.
would be the one to think about this.
Well, you could say no, or you could say adjust it. You don't have to dissolve it completely, but adjust it to that redundancy there.
So what does that get you, sorry?
The town, I mean, this seems like, I'm not sure if you're the right, or I'm the right person to comment on this, but if the town maintains ownership of a slope easement to the top of that retaining wall, and the retaining wall fails, it's clearly on the property, but the town is required to maintain the soil that was up above it behind the retaining wall, because they have the easement, maintenance requirement within the easement of that slope.
It would still probably be for the developer. I mean, you could probably make an argument that because that retaining wall failed, up top failed, and that was, town could,
They damage the
Yeah,
town.
damage,
They
yeah.
would, they would damage the town's right to have a slope there. So they would be required.
Yeah, well, I guess why would we want to retain it? It seems
Yeah, I'm
like, to
trying
me,
to-
that's, why would you want to retain it? Because you've
I
already
mean,
got
the
it.
thing that the easement was put on is no longer there. I mean, it's so different.
Part of it is.
I
Just as-
Part of it's
understand,
different,
but its vulnerability is different.
Mhm.
I think, if, my opinion, what was approved and what is being built is going to meet the intent of what the easement was for. Now that we have that in place, I don't think the town needs to really have that responsibility anymore because it approved a developer to take over that responsibility almost.
That was what I was going to ask is, why would we not want them to take that on?
Yeah.
Why would the town want to keep it?
Yeah.
Right, I don't think the
Yeah.
town needs to, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I mean, it's not a critical
Right,
Yeah.
Well, it's still.
pathway
I
or,
just briefly want to say that this was brought up at town council, but it was just in the first reading, so it just read, not discussed, that's why I didn't bring it up. So
yeah.
we haven't had, so at the moment, we haven't
Yeah,
had a chance to
discuss.
talk about it,
Yep.
but off the top of my head, I can't really think of a reason, but again,
Yeah.
with the council, we'll have discussion about it at our next meeting.
yeah.
I mean, I think a reason might be that if that retaining wall collapses and the landowner decides to not fix it,
Then can't we sue them or go on?
not if the easement is released.
Well, they'll be in violation of site plan.
They'll be in violation of something, but they might not have to build
I think,
the slope back
I
exactly.
think
the same, or
they would have to
match their
record to
site
the,
plan.
yeah, to plan. And I think we would have, I'm pretty confident that, we can go, the code enforcement officer could go to them and say, you're in violation, let's fix this, and, take the corrective actions.
And any damages it might cause, like
Yeah.
if it collapsed and the slope started to fail there, which supports the roadway,
Then that's town property, and I think you could probably take action on that.
against the landowner for damaging town property.
Correct.
For something similar, I believe without giving any names or anything, there was an issue with a septic tank that was starting to leak out into other properties, and, we did have to talk to the person there. It is still on them. Once they find out that there is a problem and it's starting to affect town property, it is more incumbent upon them to act. We have to respond to it, but they will still be expected to, they can't just say, no, I'm not dealing with this, period. This does not happen.
Yeah, so they're affecting town
Is it-
property.
So the only mechanism to go back and say you have to fix this slope, say it doesn't quite get to the point where it takes the road down yet, is going to be it no longer meets the site plan. Whereas if you hold the easement still, you have a right to enforce. You disturbed our slope.
I think you
You
have a
must
right.
correct the slope.
I think you have a right right now.
We do now because we own the town.
I think even through site plan.
Right, through a site plan, so does that have to, where does that originate?
This is zoning, so it'll be
Code
basically,
enforcement.
go code enforcement.
What's the negative of keeping the easement?
As is,
No, amended to
Amended.
fit the top of the wall, or as is, I mean,
I don't. I think,
or amended to the
again,
top of the wall.
I don't see being a problem if you amend it to go to the top, closer to the street, that's fine. But again, at that point, I think there's still redundancy there. You know, you still, like, if the town right away is gonna be affected by, let's just say hypothetically, poor infrastructure, retaining wall, then the slope starts to erode and it affects to the town's right away in the road infrastructure, then I think the town has a case to seek corrective action and damages.
My concern with that is it would take it's such a slow process to seek the damages, it should have something happen, it'll get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and then the issue becomes, well, it wasn't that bad when it started, so I'm wondering if it's, I understand and I support the idea of, the town engineer said this is their recommendation, would it be prudent to say, well, do we have to decide tonight, or couldn't people go walk over there and see how congested that space really is? I'm thinking in terms of the increased rainfall and the runoffs and this and that and this and that. It could be interesting to just go take a look and then be able to better visualize the town engineer's perspective and all the things that Jeff has now brought up about what if. Because the what ifs are imminent about runoff and erosion.
Yep.
So what happens,
So-
what happens, so in the case of, if we don't have the easement, and there's a failure, what happens? And if we still have the easement, then how's that different, like in terms of the actual fixing of the problem, if there's a problem?
If we have the easement.
If we still have the easement, yeah.
Well, the easement will still be on top of the slope, and, you know, if we'd be responsible for that, but at the same time, if that were to fail, I would imagine it's because something's happened below it, which is where the retaining wall is. And also there's, again, the property owner is still responsible for this area where, this grassy area above the retaining wall, because that's part of their site plan too. So from their stormwater management plan, so they'd be in violation of that as well. So I don't see any, I guess, issues keeping it there, but again, there are mechanisms already there to enforce.
Which scenario puts the biggest risk on the town?
Has the town's legal counsel chimed in at all about it?
Town council just said it in first reading, when we have first reading, second reading, first one, we really just read what's in the text, and then there's no discussion about it. So that way the public knows what we're going to be talking about, so in 2 weeks' time, people can come in and say. So yeah, it was read out loud, and there's no discussion on it. Discussion on it is our next meeting.
What was read out loud?
The resolution.
What was the resolution?
To consider abandonment, to dissolve the easement.
So presumably you would get legal counsel before you move
Correct.
to do that, so that's why I was wondering if the legal counsel had...
That was your question.
Yeah, has the legal counsel
So
said
now-
it's to the town's benefit one way or the other, risk is...
Right, so before town council sees it, we'll get it legal. No legal opinion's been issued yet.
I think we table it for now, so everybody has a chance to go see what he's talking about. And then,
Feel more comfortable with that.
yeah,
But the council's going to vote before we meet again.
They'll probably want your recommendation.
They're going to have a meeting before we meet again. Probably two
but you're going to
meetings.
talk about it, and
Yes,
without,
The second meeting, we'll be open for discussion. Again, we just do it this way. That way we don't introduce a bill and then pass it that night, so
Right.
people don't, it's like, oh, this was done tonight, well, no one knows.
Yeah.
So there will be discussion. Usually there is someone there, either town manager or someone in the department who will speak to the issue and with more depth, and we can ask them questions and such. Again, it was just...
and do you vote at that meeting or
Yeah,
the next?
it's voted at that meeting. We very rarely table things, but, we can, but it is not usually what we do. We usually try
Yeah.
to get things, in and out on a quick run, so.
So what was the town, the town council did discuss it to the point to ask the Conservation Commission for advice though, right? Or,
No, we got a paper, or the chair read the paper, and put it down, and then with the next thing. Like, we did not talk about anything else.
Well, Bart said he wanted the input from the from Conservation Commission.
was my understanding that the town council wanted conservation.
Yeah, we do. I'm just saying there was no other discussion on it.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Assumed that- We assumed that the Conservation Commission would have an opinion on it. We did not make a motion saying we're waiting to see what you're going to say.
So, under,
Can we do that and vote by mail or email?
Do we have to,
No, voting by email.
If it's just
passes
we're
on
not
official-
actually, we're just basically making
advisory.
an
Advising, yeah.
advisory issue. And then vote on that later, I don't know.
I don't, then, like, if you vote, that means you have to have quorum,
Yeah,
and that
right.
doesn't sound,
Yeah,
have we done in the past where everyone independently just sends a thought to
Yeah,
you and then
yeah.
you summarize it
yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
Yeah.
provide it?
You're also all welcome just to come to the town council meeting yourselves and bring forward your opinion as we're discussing. That's also, all right, during public comment.
Because this is an advisory thing, we don't even need to take a vote, we can just give the various perspectives, because I'm not sure we all have, maybe everybody has a little bit different perspective.
Yeah.
It-
Take the
Yeah,
next,
input from the commission doesn't mean a consensus vote, does it?
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I mean, if we can just summarize, we want to make sure there's legal opinion. And it's a little bit unclear what the benefit is if the town keeps it or doesn't keep it, like.
Well, maybe that's what we could vote on now. I mean, maybe that could be our recommendation, is that we don't recommend or unrecommend, but
Yeah, we just have
respectfully
these
say
questions,
we're not
these are the questions we
doing B,
raised.
but if a lawyer or town attorney were to look at it, that's one thing.
Mhm.
But I think without seeing it, it's probably not the best thing to say, yeah, sure, based on, and I don't want to sound
Or-
disrespectful to the town engineer, but it's just such a goofy site.
I mean-
I guess my underlying concern is, you went and built this thing and you said, oh, well, hey, it's not where it's supposed to be.
so
That's not cool.
I can read Underwood's recommendation, I have it right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful.
They're the town engineer,
They're-
correct?
So, yeah, so they're the third-party engineer for this project.
Okay.
So Underwood concludes that the original 1995 easement intent providing for access for maintenance and repairs is no longer warranted. We recommend releasing the slope easement based on the following. The site owner's wall is now retaining the road/right-of-way slope. New toe slope runs along near the limits of the right-of-way. The former toe slope was several feet beyond the right-of-way per the easement. Existing conditions, the easement's limits. The proposed wall and work actually inverts the proposed slopes to flow back to a common swale that runs along the limit of the right-of-way. Slope maintenance responsibility has been transferred to the site owner. The letter indicates the slope is subject to annual inspections and regular mowing. So the letter that's in front of you from the applicant's engineer or the developer's engineer for the project indicates slope is subject to annual inspections and regular mowing and other maintenance by the site owner to address erosion potential per the inspection and maintenance manual. Although we recommend the release of the easement, if the town and the applicant agree instead to reconfigure it, then language should be amended to make it clear that the retaining wall is privately owned and its design, construction, repairs, and maintenance along with the back of the slope from the retaining wall to the swale are solely the responsibility of the property owner. So that was the conclusion, recommendation from Underwood Engineering.
I mean, is there a difference between signing it over to them and taking that risk versus somebody with a residential, a house, and something happening in their yard that affects the sidewalk or the road and,
So the difference
I mean-
is now, before, there was nothing there, and the town had an easement there
Yeah.
for control. Now, there's something there that meets the intent of what that easement's for, and now it's would be the sole responsibility of the developer,
right,
or the site owner, and for perpetuity.
yeah,
So the town wouldn't necessarily need it anymore because it has, those improvements there, which are
Yeah.
not the town's responsibility to maintain,
yep.
but to enforce if they are not out of compliance, if
Okay.
they are out of compliance.
So the same restrictions or responsibilities would apply to that as any other homeowner that would have something eroding a sidewalk that runs in front of their front yard or anything like that, right?
Yes, slightly different.
So
There's a specific emphasis on that area for the town to make sure that that will never erode. So that's what that easement was for.
Yep,
Whereas, if you had some normal person, normal conditions, someone's lot, and they were maintaining it or weren't maintaining it, it started to degrade and then affect the right of way.
yep,
Again, that's affecting town property still, so there would be some, conversations with that property owner in the town
yep,
on how that lot is affecting.
yeah,
Town
which would
property.
happen here as well
Right.
if that was signed over to them and something ended up happening and it affected the road or whatever, the sidewalk that they're putting in.
Right.
Right, okay.
But
Yeah.
It seems like if the engineer and the town legal counsel are fine with this arrangement, then I would.
Yeah.
I would also look, just checking the notes now, we was also recommended by town manager Steve Fournier. I can read the whole thing as well, but it will take a bit, but the summary is that he also recommends this too. So that's the town manager, that's the town engineer, that's Underwood, that's, yeah. I think we have enough solid ground to say if we give this over to them and they don't maintain it and it starts to impact town, we do have legal
Yeah.
recourse. It's not like they just say, no, boo, boo, and we just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
We don't, that does not happen.
Yeah, I mean, either
it's okay.
way, I'm just, whatever is the lowest level of risk and cost for the town has my vote. I mean,
Well, and I think the intent has to, still be there, like the whole point was to
Yeah.
prevent erosion, right? So as long as that is there and will be carried forward, that seems like the most important thing. I guess I understand the desire to go see something, but, I mean, we're not engineers, at least most of us, I
Yeah.
think here aren't engineers, so I'm not sure if I went and saw it, I would know that would change my mind one way or the other. So,
Jeff, you said you were confused.
I just don't understand how the Conservation Commission has special knowledge of a situation like this to offer a informed opinion. I'm not trying to talk
Yeah,
down
no,
on
that's
anyone
good.
here.
Yeah.
That's
No,
more
that's
of the
how I feel
purview of
too.
someone,
Yeah.
a board like the planning board or something.
Right.
But that's doesn't mean we
It's
can't
just 'cause
offer
it has
it.
the word easement.
yeah.
It seems to be overwhelming support to do one specific thing,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why I just.
Yeah. All right, we should probably, we have other things to do. What would you like to do? Do we want to take a vote or just send back this?
I don't think we need to vote on anything,
I think the sense is, make sure there's a legal opinion and that the intent remains, whether it's dissolved or changed. I think
I mean, the question you had, what's the legal opinion of, what's the benefit to keeping an easement on
Yeah.
it versus not keeping an
Yeah.
easement on it? And if an attorney says,
yeah.
yeah.
whatever, I mean, if that question is answered to the satisfaction of the council, I'm happy.
Okay. How does everybody, I know
Just
there's,
because it's got an easement on it doesn't mean we know.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not.
yeah.
In the end, whatever's gonna,
It's not a
Yeah.
conservation.
lowest risk, lowest
Yeah, I think the
cost.
point is, as Tom said, it's not a conservation easement, so it's not necessarily our expertise to weigh in on the actual engineering of it. Is that a fair statement? Is people somewhat okay with
Well,
that?
I
I
think
know
it's better to say that we were grateful to have been asked.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what we
for
did.
sure. Appreciate being
There
asked.
was a town engineer and this and that and 5 years of rights.
Yeah,
It just seems like with all,
yeah. So basically, I think it's whatever the folks decide is, we'd be okay with it. Is that enough?
So
I think dissolving it is fine.
All parties agree that wherever the right course is,
Yeah.
that's what the Conservation Commission
Yeah,
wants
yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
the right
Very
course
good.
for the town.
for the town.
Did you get that, Sue? That was a perfect statement. One-liner?
Shouldn't it be against you all?
Yeah.
If they,
But it's good, it's good exercise. you
It
know,
never
it's,
goes
you know,
away.
Interesting stuff that you have to talk about.
the building goes away.
Are we good on that one? Good,
I hope,
okay.
yes.
All right.
Okay.
Jeff doesn't seem okay.
Yeah,
Abstain.
either, but it is what
I
it is.
abstain.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to talk about the
Open space
master plan, or do you want to talk
Yeah,
about?
sure. So, briefly, if you haven't taken the time, on the town website, there's the Plan New Hampshire charrette report or slideshow. The report is coming. And also there's the video of the presentation. So I encourage you, if you haven't seen that, take a look at that. So kind of the long and the short is it was a 2-day event. It was pretty successful. We had good public participation. Had a great crew from Plan New Hampshire, a lot of expertise and great collaboration there. And they came up with some recommendations based on public feedback on some concepts that specifically the Riverfront Advisory Committee and Master Plan Subcommittee and eventually Plan Board may want to consider in the as content within the Riverfront Master Plan chapter. So some of those recommendations are potential bridge connections to Heron Point or other ways of access Heron Point. So that was a big issue on how do we get there right now, especially with the gate closed. So they come up with some options there. They came up with some more public access riverfront public access opportunities that the town could consider. And also Shanda Park, some concepts to extend the life of Shanda Park as we face climate change and sea level rise. How do we keep Shanda Park as that public space, and they came up with some interesting ideas to extend the life of Shanda Park, or at least reimagine what it could be as the town from a climate perspective changes. They looked at South Main Street right there with the blinking light over there, what that could be, because the town is considering maybe a reconfiguration in that segment along with Jerry Ave, and that would be more one way coming from north to south, like if you're going down South Main Street, and what that could look like from the street level, so the public realm.
Which blinking light?
108 blinking light.
So
the one
across
that's
from
Riverworks.
near the
Riverworks,
Legion?
The Riverworks Legion,
Okay.
yep. So the idea is the town is considering maybe looking at reconfiguring or the traffic pattern there. So the traffic pattern would be, if you're coming from downtown, you're at Riverworks, you were to take a right, that'll be one way only till a little past South Street, and then they'll become two-way again so you can get to Tasker. And then you'll go down to Jerry Ave that way. So Jerry Ave will still be two-way. And then there would be some sort of potentially signalized or some other reconfiguration of where Jerry Ave and 108 meets to accommodate the new traffic pattern. So if that were to happen, what would that segment would look like? So
What's the goal with that change in the pattern? Like
goal-
getting more traffic in and out faster,
Well, it's
or?
public safety.
Yeah, it's a bad
issue.
intersection if you're trying to
Bad
get into town.
intersection. You create more public space, so those storefronts
Yep.
will get more foot traffic. There might be more economic activity there, more opportunities to work with other landowners to create more public space as well.
Yep.
So you are emphasizing people more, and you're slowing down traffic because you shorten the travel lane
Yep.
there as well. And then so it's more of a safety.
Reducing the illegal
purpose.
turns that are happening there.
Right.
For people not
Right.
reading the signs.
We would like to
It's a very
do that.
awkward angle.
Oh, my God.
And help with the Creighton Street as well. So we looked at that. We looked at signage opportunities, parking opportunities, how we can find those, and also public art. As Shanda Park changes, adding more interactive art pieces, which I thought was neat. So there was some thought to that. So anyways, those are just some of the highlights, and I thought it was really successful and a lot of concepts for the Riverfront Advisory Committee to consider. and all the other communities who weigh in the chapter on how to move forward with improving that area. So,
Is there a summary of that online?
yep, so we just have the report, it's a slideshow, and then probably in 6 weeks we'll get the report. And then that'll be shared online
The
with everyone.
slideshow's really good.
Yeah.
Go to that link. It's
And
right good.
so if you have time, you look at the slideshow, and then there's the video as well. So you can hear them speaking about, their thought processes and everything.
Bart, one thing I was thinking about is maybe in our December meeting, we should zero in on some of the things that are in that. Again, they're just
Yeah.
recommendations or ideas, they're pretty cool.
There's a lot.
But they specifically, some of them involve specifically Shanda Park, which is under our auspices, as well as Heron Point. And I think it might be helpful for us to, look at the Heron Point Sanctuary deed and think about what the purpose of that property has been or can be, and then what the same with Shanda Park. And really sort of, we should really dive into that and come up with what we think makes sense as well, because
I like to have a conversation with Heron Point, because it feels like there's
Yeah.
a conflict there between sanctuary, but we have trails in there.
yeah, well,
So
actually,
what is the purpose of Heron Point?
interestingly, I reread the deed, and that's why I think it would be really helpful if we read it before the next meeting and talk about it, because even though it's called a Heron Point Sanctuary, it essentially was for open space, peaceful open space. It doesn't say anything about trails or no trails, but it does say specifically or especially for youth. And I think that's actually pretty interesting, because now that the gate is locked, apparently in perpetuity because of vandalism, and there's no way to have it safely open and shut. So right now, unless you want to walk a pretty long distance compared to what it was, the access to Heron Point is sort of shut off. And so I think that part about youth, I didn't really remember that, and I think the idea of a bridge to me kind of actually elevated a little bit, because if it was in proximity to the school, then you have an opportunity for the schools to use, access Heron Point and use it from a conservation. It's still a conservation perspective and still open space, but you can't develop out. It's not going to be like a developed property. And I think as long as for me personally, the intent of that is to really preserve the shoreline and prevent erosion and the salt marsh that's there and the natural shoreline, because that's the most important part, I think, of Heron Point in terms of the ecological value. Because we're trying to repair our side, right, the downtown side, because we've lost all that. So we have it over there, and we want to maintain that. But in terms of the actual upland, I mean, it's kind of perfect for outdoor walking and classroom and that sort of thing, I think. So anyway, I think if we talk about it a little bit more in depth at the next meeting, we'll send out the deed, and we can send out maybe some of the specific images related to Shanda Park and Heron Point. Does that sound like a good
Yeah.
opportunity?
Sounds like it was a good event.
Was. I was really happy with how it turned out. I think a lot of people were who did attend, and I think the folks that helped us out had a really good time and really enjoyed their
Yeah.
time here.
Sorry I missed it.
I went for just a part of it on Friday, and I was, really impressed, with the group, because a lot of them they volunteer their time.
Yeah.
And what they came up with from overnight
Right.
is pretty impressive in terms of the drawings and so forth. And then I was really impressed with the folks who did attend. There were a lot of young people, very energized about downtown, and that was really, for me, very energizing, that
Yeah.
there's folks in town who, younger families and people, and
Care about
they
it.
really like downtown. I mean, it's, for me, I live way out of town, so it's kind of nice to see that energy of people actually living in town. Because I think a lot of the people there were probably, who live more in town. So, yeah, it's very good.
The slideshow online is very good.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the video, it's almost 2 hours long.
It's amazing, like in 8 hours, what they came up with.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was pretty impressive. So so looking forward to that final report. So next is a master plan update. So we just met the subcommittee last night, and we just talked about timeline, and conservation will probably have a couple more opportunities to talk about other chapters like recreation, give their input, but also specifically the water and land conservation chapter. So what that will be is a synthesis between the current chapter, the water chapter, which was done in 2020, combined with the open space plan and create a new chapter. So SRPC will be back once a draft is completed to present to you all for comment and further refinement before it's shot up to the subcommittee and planning board. So, but there's always other opportunities too. If you want to weigh in other chapters, for instance, recreation, there's a lot of synergies here. Transportation, so thinking trails and trail opportunities. And let's see, there's art, culture, and historic resources chapter. Obviously, the riverfront chapter, energy chapter, and future land use. Probably forgetting one, but those are the main ones that we're working on, and economic development. Excuse me. So let me know if you want to participate in that at all. I know you want to further volunteer your time, so but if you are interested, please let us know. And then I would like to, if you haven't met her, introduce Bridget Grothier. She is a land use administrator here in the planning department, but she is now going to be kind of become the conservation, I don't know, we have to figure out a title, but agent maybe, coordinator. So I'd like to introduce her to you all, and she'll be taking over her responsibilities for staff support, and I'll be coming in too, but she'll be the main line of support for you all moving forward. So
Liaison.
Liaison.
Yeah,
There you
yes,
go.
There's a
yeah,
good-
she'll be
that's a good name.
staff support. So Bridget, you want to come and introduce yourself? And
Yeah, so my name is Bridget Grothier. I started working here in June, and before that I worked for the town of Hooksett in a similar, same office pretty much. And I was the Conservation Commission staff support there, so, a little familiar, but obviously the town's different. So, yeah, slowly and surely learning about
was
Newmarket
Hooksett,
more.
you said?
Yep, yeah. But yeah, I look forward to growing into the position and learning. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great, great to have you on board, and we've chatted a lot. So what we've talked a little bit about is sort of maintaining our official files. I mean, right now, they're on my computer and they're on a USB stick, but I think it would be great if they were actually maintained in the office, so we're going to work on getting those files all over there. Another one, which I'm super excited about, is GIS capability. So doing mapping for us.
Oh, really?
Which is going to be super
Cool.
helpful. So that's still in the works, I think, in terms of capability in the town hall, but being able to do our in-house maps when we need something for a grant or trails or our easements or fee property, so that's going to be great. Yeah, and just, you've already been really helpful in terms of just our meetings, and she'll be able to help us, do our meetings and that kind of thing, so.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, awesome. Are you staying, or do you want to move up the ROSA thing?
I'll say that.
Okay, do you want to do it now, or are you going to need to leave, or?
Yeah, it's your meeting.
Why don't, I just think
Let's flip it around.
That's it.
if you don't want to, because we got a bunch of stuff, so,
Yeah.
That
So
clock
as-
is wrong, by the way.
yeah, I know, I looked at that, like, oh, can't we not clock
I know, I took
Kind
a
of
panic.
panicked. So as you know, we did talk about the ROSA project in non-public last time, and we are now able to talk about it in public. The landowners are willing for us to do that, so we wanted to talk about that tonight. I'll show you a bunch of them extras there. We can pass those around. So what's in the packet are two maps. One's sort of a regional showing the location, and one's a zoomed in on the property, and then the other one is the criteria land sheet that we created, and this is filled out for this property. Just wait till everybody gets their copies. So if you're, as you know, this property is out on Wadley Falls Road, Route 152, owned by Wayne and Janice Rosa. And if you look at the sort of the regional picture, you'll see the yellow is in Newmarket, and the purplish color, pinkish color is in Durham. You see the town line there. And they're interested, what we've talked to them about, Bart's been very involved, and Tom, talking about a conservation easement on the yellow part in Durham, or in Newmarket, and then a fee ownership, meaning they would sell it outright to an entity, which we'll talk about how that could work. So we've had discussions with the Southeast Land Trust and New Hampshire Audubon. As you know, New Hampshire Audubon, as you can see on the map, has a couple ownerships there. We, the town, are those brown colored properties, so we also abut the property in the back there in Durham. So we own property in Durham already in that area. New Hampshire Audubon doesn't have a lot of capacity to do land conservation. That's never really been their highest priority, and so they've conserved, obviously, some key pieces. But the feeling among the team here that's been talking about this is that they probably don't have the capacity to own the land or hold an easement. That's sort of the sense. In talking with Mr. Rosa, he seems interested in having the town be involved in potentially holding something there. And one scenario that seems to be coming to the top, and we'll talk about it and you guys can weigh in, is if the town holds a conservation easement on the yellow part, the part in Newmarket, and that we buy the fee and have that as a conservation added on to our conservation areas. So the town essentially would be the partner that would be doing both the easement and the fee acquisition. And the reason for thinking that through is there aren't too many other options. It's either New Hampshire Audubon or the Southeast Land Trust. And doing like one or the other, like one entity holding the easement and one entity holding the fee, it makes it a little bit more complicated in terms of going for grant funding or just in terms of sort of overall stewardship. So we're kind of, and I know when we discussed it in the public last time, the sense I think we got was that there was interest in the town actually being involved in this particular property because of its location and the potential, if we did own the fee in the back, really thinking about trail connectivity from that whole area in the Falls Brook area that we've been talking about, trying to explore a little bit more. So the part of the purpose of tonight is the next step is to do an appraisal of the property. So the appraisal would appraise it for the conservation easement on the front and fee acquisition in the back, and appraisers, can figure that all out. I think there was some discussion by the Rosas about keeping out a house lot, and I think we are thinking we'd go ahead with the appraisal without that in it. It would be no house lots, and if they decide that, geez, we actually do, then they would probably have to, update the appraisal.
Is the yellow in Newmarket there, would they, so who's going to own it?
They would retain ownership. The Rosas would own the underlying fee in Newmarket. That's how it, right, that's typically, so that would be still in private ownership.
And we would hold the easement?
We would hold the easement.
There would be an exclusion area for a house or something?
Well, they had talked about that, but we're thinking that we would, that maybe not, but that's something we'd have to
Yeah.
decide before
So,
going ahead with the appraisal. We're trying to just,
we would like to have some like either exclusionary or a house lot out of it for his family. But there's an opportunity that maybe that he doesn't need to. So that's why we decided maybe it's just good to go without it, the house lot, right now for the appraisal. But keeping in mind that he will most likely the family would like some sort of additional land to build out, additional unit.
I was just thinking if we have an easement on it and he holds it but has no right to build or do anything on it, right? Or
Right, yeah.
he could use it but no right to
right,
build.
he's got a
so-
meadow, a field he mows, right,
Yeah.
it'd be like any other easement, no development.
Yep.
Right.
Right, but usually, are there other spots where we have an easement over the entirety of a parcel?
Sure,
And it's still held in private ownership underneath?
yeah, all of the Silverman Schneers out on Mill are all in private ownership. Hilton is private ownership.
That's connected to a house though,
What?
or
Do we have cars?
Yeah, you mean-
it's a portion of the property.
No, this is a completely separate lot right now. This is.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but if there's no house on it, it becomes not really saleable by the Roses later, or no exclusion for a house, like, they retain if the road, so I was just curious how that, like, do we have,
You mean in terms of calculating the value, or he just thinks
yeah,
that-
like, does it have a value at that point?
Well, there's a
If it-
50-foot right-of-way out to the road, so there is, you could do a subdivision, right? With the
Right.
50-foot
Not
right-of-way?
if it's 100% under conservation easement,
No, but to calculate the value,
but after that,
right, you would just own it, it would just
We
be.
just own it, so
Yeah,
you
you just own it.
basically buy up the value
Right.
of the house.
and then what would you do with that?
Just keep it as a meadow, it's got a family cemetery on
Real
it.
quick, are we asking about whether the Roses can resell this later?
No, we're just seeing if we want to do an appraisal, yeah, to see if we
Okay.
want to do an appraisal.
Because I'm just saying, if there's no houses on there, if the Roses are willing to sell it to us and they know there's no house or property on there, that's their decision. That's not up to us to think about what they need in the future. So,
Yeah, we actually, the
No,
Schneer
that's
piece,
not- that wasn't.
the
what I
Schneer
meant.
piece out on, has no house on it, and that has an easement on it.
It's not ownership. And some rights.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
So those
either
are saleable,
forestry.
yeah, so we can
Yeah.
sell the forestry rights. I'm
Yeah.
just thinking of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
practicality of it.
Yeah.
and
So would
understanding
this be
the
something
rules.
that we could have, like a trail
Probably not
Public
in
use?
the yellow part, because it's a big meadow, their house looks out and they have a family cemetery. But the purple is where we would
Okay.
probably think about connectivity.
so it wouldn't be for public use?
Not the
really?
yellow piece, probably, right? Would that be
Right,
your?
so the idea is out back, so there would probably be exclusive use area with the like, the way I imagine it, where it would be non-buildable, there'd be buildable and non-buildable, because near the cemetery, because you want access to that still, I imagine, that area. And out back is where it could be like, an area where public trails could be to connect to the other conservation areas along, abutting. That's how we, at least I envision it. Just, isn't,
Yeah. Because
Is that how you
essentially the
envision it
yellow
too?
is, and he would retain ownership and still steward that part of it.
right,
I mean, I think that's part of why he wants to structure it this way. He wants to continue to mow the meadow himself. They have a family cemetery. He's got some rocks and so forth. That was his sort of business sort of thing. And so it makes sense for him to retain that ownership, but have a conservation easement so there's no further development. And then the back, he's willing to sell the conservation.
Would there be any public use of the front?
Probably not, just because of the way it's set up. It's it's their view shed. and
I mean,
they're-
even the wooded portion is a
the
fairly
woods,
large.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit back there. They probably could
Yeah.
have some connectivity back there.
Yeah, so there's a cemetery back there too that you would want, to maintain and, probably have exclusive rights over, but I think that's basically going into the woods right there, so anything beyond that, I think we could, have an opportunity to have more public access back there.
How wet is it? Like, because I know the Audubon.
Not until you
I
get
mean,
back to that meadow that he does mow occasionally. You can see actually a drainage ditch, so it's actually sort
Yeah.
of drained a little bit. So, I mean, right now it's very dry. You
Yeah.
can walk all the way back to the brook. In wet years, it's gonna be kind of wet in the
Yeah.
meadow. Yeah. But there's on the right side, it's a little bit drier as you go back. And there used to be a bridge back there, I think he said.
Oh.
So again, the idea would be that we would front an appraisal, that was sort of our thought, Bart, which could typically cost maybe $4,000 to $5,000. And then if the project moved forward, you can incorporate at least some of that, at least half of that into the grant funding, to look for funding, so we get back hopefully half, potentially a little more than that. And the other piece is that the Southeast Land Trust is available, their staff are available to help us with this, so they would help, locate the appraiser, write up the contract, it would be for the town, grant writing, they would help with all of that, which is a pretty big helpful thing, so. And that would be, of course, if we get the appraisal back and the Roses are happy with it and we're happy with it, and obviously we have to find funding for the project.
Is the town council supportive of purchasing the land in Durham,
So, you want to comment on that? Oh.
or the town manager?
Well, we can't spend money, the policy is right now that I think, any money that's spent can't be spent outside. I'm going back to the Mitchell property.
Yeah, we can't spend any money in Durham.
Yeah,
We can't spend any taxpayer money in Durham.
correct.
But if
So
we
it'd
have
have to be
grant
grant
money, they can spend it. And because these are two separate things, it's kind of like the Mitchell project. One's a fee and
Exactly.
one's an easement. It's kind of a similar thing. So the grants would have to pay for the fee and.
Newmarket funds,
if you have any money,
taxpayer
we
funds
could
would be
use it.
Newmarket portion.
In the town of Newmarket would support owning land in the town of Durham.
We haven't broached the subject with them yet, but, with town council.
Yeah.
But it's not unprecedented.
I mean, I think if for some reason, the council or whoever, if people said, no, we absolutely don't want that, then we'd go back to our partners and say,
Right.
okay, Audubon, can you hold it? I mean, I think there are some, I don't think that's, right now, that's not the preferred, but if that's what people want, then we would go back to Audubon or Selt and say, would you be willing to own it?
What about the town of Durham?
We don't think Durham would be interested because it's completely landlocked for them.
Even if we bought it?
Yeah, I don't think, it's not connected to any, it totally connects to our property. That's why, it's in our interest to see that conserved and look at trail connectivity. It's not really on their radar for that. There's just another private ownership that we think would be.
So there really is no way to get across there to Audubon?
Not right now, not to that one, over to the other one. The
Farrell?
To Quox.
To cross?
Yeah, Farrell is a private ownership, so we haven't explored the trail connectivity there yet. But when you go in off of Maston Drive, the north side of Falch Brook, that's all waterworks and conservation, well, essentially conservation land, so you could, and there's already a trail, right? People have probably been on that trail. There's kind of a trail that's been there that could connect all the way up on that side of the brook as well.
Basically, if it works out right, you would have from Packers Falls all the way out to, further into west, that portion of Newmarket, all conservation land, and different portion like Audubon, town, other entities that are in that area.
What are the chances that Audubon would be open to partnering on a loop trail on that side?
They seem interested. When I talked to, they've had some staff turnover, the last land steward person seemed pretty interested and.
Yeah, so to build out basically from
Right,
Piscassic
yeah, to keep going.
to do a back loop trail. And
Yeah, something over there.
No, when we put in the connector trail, they were all about it. They were very,
Yeah.
very happy to do that, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they seem very interested in that.
I think that would be a nice
Yeah.
addition.
There's already kind of a trail that way, out there.
The Rosa Trail.
One that heads towards it.
Any other thoughts? So I'm thinking tonight, a couple things. One, if you'd be willing to allocate money for an appraisal, and two, maybe giving, team we've had was Bart, Tom, and myself to negotiate with the Roses in terms of what the actual appraisal would do, just to make sure we're, and if he decided he did want a house lot, would you be okay with that? If that was what the appraisal was gonna calculate out,
Either
one
take
house
it-
lot? Would that
take
be
it
okay?
into consideration. or not.
Consideration, would that be all right if we negotiate on that? Rather than having to wait another month and coming back, I just want to see if you're comfortable with, I think it's one house lot or no, it's not like he wants two house lots.
Yeah.
How anxious does he seem to want to move forward?
He seems like he has time, he's been wonderfully committed to conservation, so it's been really nice. And it's beautiful back there, he does excavation, his woods road is just
His own
outstanding.
gardens are exquisite.
And he's got, all the gardens are rocks, the rock gardens, it's just pretty amazing, yeah. It's a pretty nice spot.
It's I don't know if you guys are familiar which house it is, but as you're heading out on 152, it's the brick house that sits back with the loop driveway just before you go past the Sewell farm.
Driveway's got those two pillars.
the brick
With
pillars.
like a
It's the
very
brick house.
Scottish Gaelic-y kind
Yeah.
of stonework at the top.
Sure, I've
Right
seen
after
it.
the
You're gonna see it tomorrow
Falletsbrook.
when you drive by.
Yeah.
Just
It's
after
pretty
Falletsbrook.
open to- And you wanted to do a block, a site block.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
yeah, we can
You
plan
want to
for
see
that.
it for yourself.
So the appraisal we're talking about tonight is just for the Newmarket?
No, it'd be for the whole thing. Yeah.
But we have to use grant money for the appraisal and
No, we can pay for the appraisal for the whole
Sure.
thing. It's just we can't acquire the
Okay.
interest when we get to that
All
point.
right.
But no, we can pay for an appraisal for
So
the
the
whole.
appraisal though will divide
Yeah.
Newmarket and Durham
Yeah, there'll be-
as two
Yeah, because
different-
Yeah.
one will be a conservation easement,
Yeah.
one will
And
be
one is
fee.
an acquisition fee.
So
Yeah.
they're separately done.
So it's a little complicated. It's not a straightforward appraisal, so we're hoping up to $5,000. We'll do it. I did want to mention that we did fill out the criteria sheet, so you can take that and look at it. But
Yeah,
it pretty
that's
much hits a
interesting.
lot of the,
It works well, didn't
and
it?
there's, it described it in the back. The, Ben Engel from CELT had done a lot of the analysis in terms of all the various features, so that was nice, so we were able to plug that in. Any other questions you think we should be asking, or think we're in pretty good shape? So maybe a motion, if you're willing, to approve up to $5,000 for appraisal and give this team permission to negotiate with the
So
Roses.
moved.
5,000 will do it?
Second.
Well, we can do a first and a second and then discussion. Do you think 5,000 is enough, Tom? That's what CELT suggested,
Okay.
so. I
That's
think
all I
they
was
were-
asking.
thought that- They have an appraiser they think is
That will
pretty
be
good.
from the conservation.
Comes from the Conservation Fund, yes. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Awesome. Fantastic. It's a very, very nice project.
Nice people too.
Okay, so let's see, thank you for that, so we just went out of order. Okay, I think we're all set, Bart and Bridget, but you're welcome to stay, but,
So Mitchell?
Um, yeah,
Sorry,
Mitchell,
have it
yeah, we're set with the open space bond. Mitchell is waiting for grants. I
Good.
think LCHIP and Drinking Water are announcing next week. Fingers crossed that. Very good.
I
For
think
buffers
so.
and, consider buffers and setbacks, or you got the
What-
setbacks and then a buffer to the setback.
Yeah, what I mentioned last month
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
meeting was, I did some research, I looked at for some different towns around the state that had a wetland setback and a wetland buffer area. And Hampton had been given to me as an example, as a town that has one, that has like a tacked-on buffer, a tacked-on setback from the buffer, where the other towns I found mostly had just a setback that was wider than the buffer area. So it's not super isolated, and it's, I don't know. I didn't search every town, obviously, but I did find about 5 examples of it. And the one thing to think about is that zoning can give, correct me if I'm wrong, Bart, but zoning can give relief from a setback. The zoning board can give relief from a wetland setback, but they can't give relief from an overlay district or a buffer.
Right, unless there's
So-
express permission through the zoning.
Right, so at least, if the setback's onerous for what the person wants to do, they could go to ZBA and get closer to the buffer, right?
Yeah.
So-
They can give relief from a
Setback,
setback, but
yeah.
not.
Buffer. So basically, the setback will be reduced, but that buffer will still be intact.
So if you made the setback, say 15 feet further out than the buffer, and someone's like, well, I'm only gonna put a shed or this, that, or the other there,
Then you
and they can go to the ZBA and get relief and actually get closer to the buffer. So while, so that, I guess my perspective there is if there's pushback on putting in additional regulation on people, there is the ability to work with the ZBA.
Right, or if it's not a variance, maybe it's a special exception, that meets criteria. So
Right.
if it's something that workshop, again, how stringent you want to be.
Right.
Or how flexible you want to be, like.
Right. I like the idea of the extra, obviously extra protection for the wetland, but also being cognizant of the fact that some people may find it onerous, so it's a little bit of a ability to compromise, so to speak, should a situation arise.
What's the time frame on those potential changes?
A while. Plan board's still looking at it.
Well, that's different though, right?
Well, yeah. So that's actually going to be part of it. So
We could do that separate, but it's going to take years to redo zoning.
right, but the way, if things work out right with some grant funding, the idea is what we're doing with already with 108 and North Main Street, we would replicate that process throughout the town. Meanwhile, we would look at our current zoning and find out, look through there where it needs to be improved or some inefficiencies removed. So basically, we do a digest of zoning and update it as well. So it'll be comprehensive zoning reform. So it'll be over a year.
So I was wondering also in relation to the prime wetlands mapping, because we have to update the zoning related to that.
That
So
could-
do you wait, or would
Nope.
we do that?
I don't think we have to wait on that.
Okay.
Can we do that, perhaps look at the wetlands
Yeah, why not look
setback
at the
same
wetlands
time?
at the same time?
We
since-
could, yeah. Yeah.
Because then it would.
I just don't want to do, I guess we could, yeah.
Because it's the overlay, the prime wetlands are in the wetland overlay district, right?
Yeah, so
That's a different thing though, right?
yeah, it's a different thing. So what I would do is you can update the prime wetlands map, do that really quickly. Meanwhile, we have our conversations
Oh, but
changing the buffer,
Yeah, yeah,
the
okay.
buffer.
Because that would modify the overlay
Yeah, yeah.
district,
Yeah.
but it would have nothing to do with the setback. It would
Yeah,
only
yeah.
change the buffer, and the
Right.
setback is more part of
Okay, so we can-
dimensional
yeah.
Correct,
restrictions.
yeah.
Alright.
So I guess,
From the wetland.
I mean, always open for discussion and modification on, timing and process, but I thought maybe, throughout the year, we would do a methodical approach on updating different sections of the zoning. Meanwhile, we have our public engagement process as well, and we would update it. But again, if it's a priority of conservation and planning board, then I could always expedite it and, put it up to the fore.
It was pretty good reception this month when I brought up the fact that I had mentioned it to this board last month, and it was a positive, it seemed positive.
I think it'd be nice to at least have a working framework and understanding of what would be proposed to town council. Because that would help, I think, with the development of the other zoning reforms. Or at least conceptually what those reforms would do and how it would interact with the wetland presence. So honestly, actually, I think it'd be more helpful if we could probably answer that question first, the wetland question, and I think it would facilitate discussions for the other zoning.
Should we talk about it next meeting, and specifically delve into the buffers?
So maybe we just take out the chapter, the ordinance chapter,
And look at it.
the article,
Yeah.
and just look at it and just go through it. Might as well.
Yeah.
We'll do it anyways.
I mean, it does, I mean, we do have to re-adopt the map, right, which will affect the setbacks from, or sorry, the overlay district surrounding.
Could we do that in
prime wetland
January?
anyway, so yeah.
Would January be okay? Because we're going to talk about the New Hampshire plan in December and all that, and
Yeah.
I think two big things is
So-
a lot.
Maybe Jeff and I can take a stab at it.
Yeah,
And then have some sort of draft for discussion.
because Mark will probably come in January to show us the final prime wetland map, so then we could do it.
Yeah, that'd be
nice.
too. So
Tie
let's do
together.
that.
Okay.
Jeff, you good with that?
Yep.
All right.
Cool. So we can workshop that.
Great. All right, and this one we just did that. Okay.
That was the only thing at planning board. We discussed the zoning proposal.
Okay.
One thing the only thing I'll mention from the zoning proposal that folks might want to think about too is there was talk whether buffers, overlay districts could be included in lot size calculations in some of the new zoning, along with some of the new zoning. So I would think that conservation's perspective on that down the road might be good, or now, I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
I mean, as of right now, depending on the wetland classification, it removes more or less of the overall development, developable acres of that lot. So I think that's right
Like-
tippy top of it.
So if you have like a 10,000 square foot lot and
Yeah.
3,000 square feet of it is a wetland buffer, then you can't make it 10,000, it's gonna be 10,300 square feet if 10,000 is the minimum size, right? So you're not forcing people into a very small area of their parcel to utilize. It gives them more space outside of the buffer, so hopefully less infractions into the buffer.
Yeah.
All right. Anything more on the planning board? Thank you. Riverfront Advisory Committee, Shanda Park, you kind of talked a bit, but just to reiterate, there's a meeting on Monday?
Yeah, so we weren't able to talk about the strikes, didn't happen prior to the last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But we will discuss it Monday.
One of the things I've mentioned to Sam, who is our rep and chairs the Riverfront Advisory, because this is such a, pretty amazing ideas, and it involves much more than just Shanda Park, which is kind of our inherent point, that is there some need to expand the Riverfront Advisory Committee or make it a more standing, a bigger commission so that it can actually help implement some of these ideas, or at least move the conversation forward?
Yeah. I think the idea is that that's kind of their area of responsibility. They become the stewards of that area. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ellen. It's more like maybe Shanda Park becomes their responsibility more than the Conservation Commission. So something to think about. I think it's worth discussing.
Yeah, I think we can talk about that next
Yeah.
month, some of that, the
Yeah.
whole, let's just have a big conversation about all that, yeah. Okay, anything else for Bart? Thank you. Energy and Environment, Julie couldn't be here tonight. Yep, School Liaison, Emma couldn't be here tonight. 300th celebration, do you have anything you want to do?
There was a meeting last night that I wasn't able to attend, so I don't have super up-to-date info, aside from the fact that I think last night they voted on the committee, the board. So, chair, president, vice president, secretary.
Oh, you mean like annual voting?
Annual,
of-
yeah,
Chair's office.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
thank you, officers. But that's about it.
Who's the chair? Or you don't know, you weren't there?
I'm pretty sure it is Mike Provo.
See you, Bart. Thank you.
Thanks, Bart.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bart.
Thank
Safe
you.
travels. Okay. Okay, easement monitoring. Do you want to say anything, or want me to, or what?
Well, I know very little. I do know that I got Bald Hill back from
Julie?
Julie, thank you, tonight. I have still not seen the Smith sisters from David. But as to what the status is of the other monitoring, I don't know what it is. Perhaps you can
Yeah.
tell us?
I can provide that.
Thank you.
Silverman and Schneer are the ones that I usually do, so I've done the field work, just need to do the reports, no issues on those two. I did go out with Charlotte Harding from the state, who monitors the Wigan Farm and Dearborn, so we walked around those two properties. No major issues there. Dearborn, there's a property that has a maple sugaring the tubing. And at first we thought it was on the Dearborn property, but the boundary there's a little unclear, but it seems like mostly it's on their property. There might be a little bit of encroachment, but
It's the line we had marked. Do we have that back line marked?
this is the back line is with Fish and Game, so it's.
No, I mean, the back line of the lots up front on Grove
Right,
Road.
it's not very clear, yeah. It's where the clear cut was.
Yeah.
And the clear cut that Mr. Dearborn did, I think, was on both sides of the line that got formed, and so, well, no, yeah, I think, because he owned the whole thing before, right? So,
Do
it's
we have
not,
Sutro mark that line for us?
no, there's that line
Probably
somewhere.
did.
Not from where that little 50-foot right-of-way goes in to the left. It's not marked very well.
We specifically had that done years ago.
The right side there is, but not the left, as far as I know. But we can check.
The left towards the
Tree farm.
west, towards the tree farm.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the other direction.
Yeah, no, the other one's okay.
Okay.
No, mostly the whole boundary except that is pretty clear. William Farm was fine, and then I went out with Katie Bates with Southeast Land Trust, and they monitor Nostrum for us now in Hilton. I went out with her, I didn't go out with her in Hilton, she finished it the same day. At Nostrum, so that property is sold, so there's new owners. They're from North Carolina. They're actually originally from the seacoast, apparently they're moving back, and they're pretty excited. It sounds like they want to do kind of what was happening there, small scale, either personal or small scale farming.
Did they also buy that trailer?
No, that was
That's
sold
a
to somebody
separate
else. That
Property
was different. I think that,
found it, I saw that it was for sale.
yeah, so Jan Lane comes off of 152, and it's a private road. And it kind of comes into the backside of the Nostrum Farm. And there was a property with a mobile home that got sold, and I think the people that own the property to the left bought it, according to the deeds.
Gotcha.
So one of the things that came up, and you all, when you did it last year, is that the property was never surveyed, even though there's a plan, because it's based on abutting surveys that Doucette Survey did. So there's an exclusion area where that was surveyed, even though the pins are below ground, so you have to use a metal detector. But some of the boundaries are not entirely clear. And then the northern, there's a little dog leg that goes up to this Jan Lane that comes in, and there's these two houses, this trailer over here and this other people, and those driveways go across the Nostrum property, and which is an existing condition. It was there when the easement was put in place, but the baseline documentation doesn't really talk about that. So based on the fact that the survey's not really great, and that this, and there's a change of ownership, I think we should do a new baseline documentation. So I think I can do that, but I do think we should think about whether we should do a survey, a new boundary survey, and maybe Jeff, you can weigh in terms of not as a business, but as a surveyor,
Right.
if you think we should do that.
I've walked the entirety of it, and the part, in the back it abuts other conservation land, right? So I
Yes.
don't know that that's
Yeah.
it's similar, it's us as well, right?
Right, well, the town, okay, if I just have a map, but if you look at the property from the south, you come in off of Doe Farm, and the Nostrums still live, they have houses there, and they have two house lots. So that whole southern line is well
Right.
monumented and fine.
On both sides of the driveway,
And
too.
both sides of the driveway, and then on the eastern side, it's essentially the Newmarket, it's actually Wigan Farm.
Wigan Farm.
And then it's the dump, the Newmarket dumps, we own that, and then it's Fish and Game. So we
And
don't.
you can follow it, so I followed
Yeah.
remnant barbed wire fence back through those woods.
Yeah.
There's this point where it kind of turns out into the swamp, and there's
Yeah.
an old tree that may or not be the tree, and there's a lot of water, it's very wet. And then it turns towards Jan Lane, right?
Yeah.
And there's some barbed wire still in some trees out
Yeah.
there, here and there, there's not a lot of it.
Yeah.
You can find it if you look hard, and then you hit another stone wall, and then the monuments are pretty easy to find around where the
mobile home was.
mobile home was,
Yeah.
and there's a fence going out there.
And then the
I
other
mean-
side is salt.
Yeah, there's, it's just this
It's
point.
it's that one part
It's the
that
point
that I
that
would.
goes out to this
Yeah,
Jan.
I would agree that part,
Yeah.
and that,
So
it's
here's.
just the way that property is, you might not need to survey the whole thing
Mhm.
in order to determine that little
Right.
area. So maybe you just need a surveyor to look at that portion.
And so I think one of my questions, though, is if we were doing that easement now, we would have excluded that point, that tip, because it's got two driveways going through it. You would have just said, okay, that's part of the property, but the easement is cut off. And if you look at the tax map, you'll see where actually, well, that's where it should have been cut off. So I don't know if it's a landowner issue and it's their business if they want to survey that point and figure it out, because we don't, from an easement perspective, that's not part of really the agricultural area, right? It's an existing dirt road and driveways, and that's the landowner's business how they want to deal with that. So I don't, my thought is, do we need to do the survey, or is it we can just let them know that, hey, this is the boundary and you might want to figure it out, because the rest of it we can it's pretty easy to see what's happening on the property, so.
Yeah, on the east side of that road, there's, I believe, the west side of that road, I thought there was like some, maybe a little bit of remnant stone wall.
There is a little
and
bit.
a
in part of
rebar
it.
over there.
Yeah,
and-
there is a little bit. So
And
the main
so-
part of the property where the main part of the farm is pretty clear where the boundaries are. It's just this little funky piece and.
It's just where it ends, because
yeah.
the two sides of it are obvious, because it's the
Yeah.
old road essentially.
Right.
It is Jan Lane, I
Yeah.
believe, that they retained, and it's just like where it ends, how far out
Yeah.
into these driveways and like that front yard
Right.
on the east side, because it's kind of out across the driveway in the front yard on the east side.
But if we delve into that, then it's kind of on us, right? Now we've said, okay, this is where the easement is, and we care where that is, and I don't know if we want to take that on, because
Well, but for sure the BDR should be.
updated, yeah, it's a pretty
Updated.
bad, and actually pretty bad
and then-
baseline, so,
And
yeah,
then that's really all we
we
need.
need to do. That seem fair?
Because I think there is a survey of it, it's just an old, it's an older,
Yeah.
the survey was not updated, I should say, because I'm pretty sure some of the boundary might not have bearings and distances, it might say it follows old fence or something like that. So I
Yeah.
think there's kind of a survey of it, and I would agree that if it doesn't have easement value,
Yeah,
it might cost you a fair amount of money to figure out where
Yeah.
those two
and I think we
those
should
two points
just
are.
let the landowners know, because the interesting thing about the baseline is, the person who did it was the town planner. He actually used the, you know, they'll see it, he used the tax parcel information, which is notoriously not very accurate, but it didn't include that extra dog leg, so we can say, well, this is what the easement was supposed to be, so. Okay, I think that's, are people fine if we just do the baseline and we'll not worry about the survey? And then when the new people come.
Baseline is just going to be the condition.
Yeah, so what you do is, I like to take pictures of the monuments, because then the people that are going out monitoring know where they are, and we'll take pictures of the buildings. And there's some weird, like there's a wetland buffer, and I wouldn't say weird from the perspective that the easement is kind of complicated, it's a little bit too wordy, and then there's some public access areas, which are pretty well marked, actually.
The only things that I recommended, I can't remember if we did it, is to replace, there's the one missing monument from the exclusion area, at least there was only one missing monument from the exclusion area, and then maybe one or two of the missing, that divided the different types of
Yeah.
use. One or two of those markers I thought were missing.
Okay.
I don't remember, I'd have to pull up the report from when we went out last time.
Would we need a surveyor, or a volunteer could do that? Who knows about surveys?
A volunteer could certainly set the agricultural
Yeah.
differences like those,
Yeah.
but in,
Exclusion areas are a little more serious.
the exclusion area is bearing and distance legal boundary.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
big one
where the
line.
other one is kind of nebulous, because it's like there's a triangle on a map, you know, with no bearings and distances to it. It's like only known in a GIS format, really, essentially, where it is. So
Well-
that, I mean,
Why don't we do this? Why don't we do the baseline? Might take me a month or two, and then we'll look at the baseline and decide if we need to do.
I have a
And-
ton of photos actually from last year,
Okay.
so.
Okay,
I can
cool.
pass
That'd be
those
great.
along.
Okay. Sorry, that was a pretty long, but I just wanted to update you on that. They seem like great people, and they're,
Are they
I don't-
planning on farming it?
I think they're gonna do just small scale stuff right now. And they're not coming in until, I think, spring, officially moving there. But they've actually bought it, so it is theirs. Okay, that was the easements. And CELTA's gonna monitor Piscassic River Loisel on November 26th, if anybody's interested in going out there. Okay, we talked about ROSA. I mentioned Mitchell. I think the grants are going to be announced next week. And those are key, because once those two, then that's pretty much sets everything in motion, and it'll still be into next year, probably in the summer before it closes, because they have to do an updated appraisal and have to do a boundary survey. It's pretty complicated property, so, but that's very exciting. So hopefully, well, if we hear, I'll let you know.
What grants were those?
LCHIP
Yeah.
and drinking
Both.
water, the drinking water grant program. The drinking water grant program, apparently, they had more money than requests.
Well, it was really abstract.
So,
Wow.
yeah, so that's cool. So that sounds good. LCHIP is very competitive, so I think, my guess is they'll get some. Hopefully they'll get it all, but they might get a portion. That's often, sometimes what happens, so. Okay, projects, prime wetlands mapping. Mark has done his field work. His GIS person's making the maps, and so I think I'll have him, I just talked to him, and he might be able to come in December, but I think we should just have him come in January, then for sure the maps will be done. So that's that. Heron Point Sanctuary, Orion Tree Services did the tree work last week or 2 weeks ago, so that's done. And I don't know if the boundary survey is underway yet. I haven't heard from them. And as I mentioned, the gate is permanently closed according to DPW.
I was in there today.
Okay,
I went in to clear all
Oh,
the
yeah, great.
boardwalks and so on.
nice.
It's in pretty good shape. Some of the boardwalks are getting pretty rough. They're gonna need, next couple of years, they're gonna need to be replaced, sections of them. I dug out on the upside of some of those so the water would drain
Yeah,
out
yeah.
rather than sitting.
Great.
So I was in there for like 3.5 hours.
Oh, nice.
Got most of it done in pretty good shape.
Did you park at the gate or you walked from,
So I called
oh, did you get the combo?
and I got the combo.
Okay, good.
So I can get in if we need to get in.
Yeah, I have it too, so, yeah, just don't want to say it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah, so
The high school was gonna help you, did anybody help you?
today,
Yeah.
no, it was pretty quick. I had a leaf blower,
Oh,
did a lot with the leaf blower. Boy, no.
yeah, don't say the
But
leaf
boy, it
blower.
worked good.
Don't mention that. All right, good, thank you for that, that's great.
Yeah, just out of bellows, right? You just like stir it.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's the air I use.
Is that the original?
Yeah.
Did you see anything else while you're in there? Everything looked good, even though see, the access is different, right? More people aren't going in there, so did everything look okay?
Yeah, everything looked great. There were half a dozen people in there walking around while I was
Nice.
in there. So, you know.
You think they're walking from Bay Road, coming out, or from downtown and walking all the way around?
I mean, I couldn't tell whether
Yeah.
they were, you know, the trailer park people or coming all the way around, but,
Yeah.
you know, I think, I'm not sure why what was the damage that was done?
It's, they crashed into the gate and it's like thousands of dollars to repair it, and it happens a lot.
They broke through the gate?
Yeah, they smashed the gate because they're inside and they can't get out, and they don't know that the gate will open, and then even if that happens, if you open the gate, the timer goes off, and so it's just apparently a problem. Apparently it's very expensive. It's a very expensive gate.
A
That's
bridge?
it.
I think we need
A bridge, yeah, I think we're, actually, yeah,
It's like reviving
the bridge,
14-year-old,
I know.
Mike's idea.
Okay, cool, thank you for that, that's great. Wigan Farm, the boardwalk, so, hopefully December, whatever the Monday is, December 1st, December 2nd, he thinks he'll start, Greg DeSanto. So I'm thinking Sunday, is Sunday, December 1st? Let's go check the calendar for a second. Yes,
Yes.
Sunday is December 1st. So that would be the day that we would go out there and remove the boardwalk.
You're gonna send a note out?
Yeah, I'll
about
send a
that?
note, just because he'll have to confirm for sure that he's going to start the next day, because I don't want to take it out too soon. But we'll have to close that trailhead probably for 3 days, I would think, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Okay.
But Thanksgiving weekend is Sunday.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, but so if you put that in your calendar, you can help out, that'll be great, because I think the more we can dismantle it, then he just can start right in and,
So
I'll
Sunday the
put-
1st?
I'll start announcing
Yeah,
it
yeah,
on
yeah.
Facebook.
December 1st.
Sunday the
Yep.
1st.
Yep. And basically we'd need, if you have a power, a power drill to remove they're basically GRK screws. So if you
Yeah,
have
we-
that, that's kind of what we need, and then people
Put
to
them in.
stack them. And
Yeah.
we're going to keep what we can, the good stuff, and then we'll make a pile of stuff that's probably,
Right.
it shouldn't actually take that long, really.
What time are you thinking?
Depends how cold it is, we might want to wait till it warms up a bit, so
10?
10 maybe, yeah.
Pretty nice and super dry in there.
It's very dry, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Won't
it's going to be
stand
great.
without boots on.
And I think it's going to hold up, so it should be good. That'll be really nice to get that done. Ashwamp Road, Lindsay got a grant from the Nature Conservancy. Did we talk about this before? She got a $75,000 grant, I think,
Holy
from,
cow.
to start the actual planning. So she has an engineering firm, and we're having a call on Friday, and Jeff, you're on that, to just
No.
kick it off and to see what they're planning to do. So their role will be to come up with a design, and that's what that first bunch of money is for. And then hopefully within a month or two, we'll hear about the big grants to actually do the construction.
Planting is already started.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's the wetlands, the wetland scientist was out there yesterday or the day before.
Who was that?
I believe it's Mark Jacobs.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, he's top notch.
yeah, very good.
Oh.
Excellent, it's very exciting that it's moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. There was that day when it was like 75 out. There was 3 painted turtles I got out there. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it because it was
Huh.
like late.
They got hit?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
It
a
was
spotted
warm,
turtle
though.
dead on my road.
Did you?
A spotted salamander.
It's
Got
crazy.
run-
Such
Got
a
run
bad,
over
strange
2
thing.
days ago.
Really?
Yeah, sad. So anyway,
Definitely-
that's super exciting, that
definitely
project. It's going
Serious
forward.
beaver activity right there now too,
Yeah.
on the north side of the road.
Uh-huh.
Not on my side. It's crazy.
Okay, so then, okay, onward to events, outreach, education. So Salamander Crossing Brigade, that's Zach, and he couldn't be here tonight, so we'll postpone that. Vernal Pool Survey, Mark's gonna think about that, and we'll postpone that conversation. Rain barrels. I asked Julie quickly, I think everybody's really interested in this idea. Lindsay's willing to host it at DPW for the pickup. The Energy is interested, we're interested.
I mentioned it to the planning board
Yeah.
Tuesday night, and everybody thought it was great.
Yeah, just considering how the drought we're having now, and there's fires in southern New England,
Is
so.
there any kind of education going along with it, do you know?
We haven't really gotten that far, so I think the first thing is to contact that New England Barrel Company to see if they're, how it would work, and, because you need some other parts too, but
Yeah.
you can do it with a little demo. We talked about Tim maybe doing a demo, like a little,
Yeah, he was gonna do a demo, and this is great that it comes up, because the other times it's come up, we were just behind the curve of getting the barrels. You have to sign up and say, I went
Yeah.
30 or whatever, you have to give a guesstimate of how many you think you're gonna sell or be able to deal out. So this is great, if we can get in ahead of all.
yeah. So,
So you
And
don't
they
have
did
to,
come
you don't
up
have to
with
buy them
kits.
ahead of time?
yeah, no, I think we have to buy, so we need to start a sign-up sheet pretty soon if we want to, like, Earth Day
Yeah.
delivery or something, does that kind of make
Oh,
sense?
I see. Oh, I gotcha. Okay. So we're not, instead of like we used to buy 30 of them.
No, I
and
think we'd
slowly
have
sell them.
everybody sign up.
That's a better.
Sign
yeah,
up,
that's
and
Yeah.
you
nice.
get
Then
them
there's no,
delivered,
Yeah.
that's where
And
it
there's
comes
no
into the
storage.
storehousing.
Yeah.
Where
Well,
do you keep them for
yeah,
people to come
just
from?
briefly though.
Yeah, DPW will host it,
Yeah.
so it'll be right there. It'll be
Because it's
perfect.
just briefly, it's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we used
So-
to have to hold them for months at a time
Yeah.
until we sold
Oh, I
them.
meant to buy one, I forgot, I
Yeah,
bought roast
exactly.
beef cookies instead.
So I'll talk
Yeah,
to
that's-
Julie to
that's a
see if
good
she'd have that up, or, does anybody else want to be involved in that in terms of working with Julie, if she's interested? I'll talk to her. Crickets. Okay, the last, 2 things are kind of related. Turtle Fest 2025, do you want to talk about that, Chris?
I can talk about that a little bit. Be thinking, go back and look at your notes, I can distribute it again, what part of this you can do or help with. But the piece right now that we actually needed to vote
Yeah.
on would be the artist $300. So I contacted right here in town, Lamprey Screen Printing, to see about what t-shirts could cost. I just arbitrarily picked the highest content cotton, thinking that kind of fit best with our mission in life anyway. And it was 1 to 25 are roughly $9. I sent Ellen a list, I didn't bring my notebook in, sorry, but I got a quote sheet. So one breakdown is most of the sizes to 1XL are $9, 2XL and above are $11. Or if you got more than 50, the price breaks down just about $1 for each set of shirts. What we need to figure out is the logistics of where would they be sold and how would they be sold. Just keeping track of different ways to do it, or somebody who could have 10, okay, great, you sold 10, how do you get your money back to us? Or can we set up Venmo, can we take it through, how are people going to pay for them, those logistics? And I guess that's something to ask Bill Tappan probably. Which I don't mind doing, since I'm a trustee of the trust funds anyway, and we meet December 7th, so I can ask him how could the payment go. But the exciting part that we needed to have some kind of a approval for tonight was John Herman, who you might know in town, and he's done shirts for a few different things in town. They're woodcuts that he does. He's done a lot of Cheswell stuff, he's done a lot of stuff for various merchants in town. He would do a woodcut, Newmarket, Turtle Fest 2025. So the big question is, should it say Newmarket Conservation Commission? I don't want to bias you by saying I would say yes, but, and then he has a design idea of putting 3 turtles in sort of a facing each other circle, but he would do a woodcut design on each one that indicates a different type of turtle that we would have here. So I've only mentioned, when I mentioned it, when I said to the screen printers, oh, what's your setup fee? That was key. The setup fee is only $25. So that's a very competitive and great price to get out of our local screen printer. But, and he said, well, what, I get designs all the time, and they're too complicated. And I said, well, we're hoping that we are approving tonight. Well, I'll let him know as soon as I can. It's John Herman. And he said, oh, those woodcuts are wonderful. They print really well. So you might have seen him. He's done Johnny Boston. He's done a couple of for the Historical Society. I don't know where else to tell you. You might look and see what he's done. But anyway, I think it's a great thing to
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah, that's true too. Good Juju has some of the some prints that he's done, some artwork, not just t-shirts. So you can check out his kind of work. But I thought that was significant that we had a local person that has some certainly name recognition in the area. He would be interested in, he said he would do it, and his artist design fee would be $300. The only thing else he asked was a t-shirt for each member of his family, and if we did anything else, if we decided we were doing any kind of tote bag or I don't know what else with the design. So that's what we would be looking for tonight, is approval to let him know, go ahead, and it would be good for the $300 artist fee.
Should we add on just for the t-shirts too, and for the printing setup fee?
The printing setup fee is $25.
Right, should we just approve
Oh,
up to
oh.
like $400 for the t-shirt thing? Is that enough for him and for the printer and?
We could. We
We'll do that
have to
later.
decide how are we going to order t-shirts in advance, or are we going to do it? I can tell you that there's a merchant in town who has a website, and if you want to order something, you order it on the website, and then it gets printed up like on demand, kind of like how Amazon does books on demand. That's got a different set of problems to it, or not problems, a different set of situations to it. So do we want to have somehow a pile of these things that people can buy? Are they buying them that's a logistics thing. Are they buying them that day? Like they came, they had such fun, they couldn't believe it, they want a souvenir that day? Or are we trying to sell them in advance?
Okay. So tonight you're saying we just need the design?
Tonight, I
Okay.
just wanted
Okay.
to push the idea across that we needed to approve so he can do it in his spare time, of which he has precious little, but he's very excited to do it. He said he's always loved doing things for Newmarket, and that this appealed to him because he was a fan of that particular wildlife farm.
Do we, is he going to do a sketch that we approve next meeting, or we're just going to let him do his design? And go for it?
I have a pencil sketch, so I could email that to people. On the other hand, it's awkward to say.
Well,
On the other hand, I think
like
for
to let
$300
artists
and
do
it's
it.
John Herman and he loves Newmarket and Turtle Fest, and people know who he is, I'd say like, you know what?
Yeah.
Knock your socks off.
Yeah, I'd like to
He
let
can
the
give it
artists
to us
do it.
retro.
Yeah.
He says he's going to do it, and then he can digitally change it if we
Yeah.
have changes that we wanted to have made.
so the Newmarket Conservation Commission would be part of that, or would be somewhere else on the shirt?
It's the price I got is for running the shirt once through the press. So it's the front or the back, whichever we choose, but it's one thing.
One image.
One image. It's also one image from him. Also, I think there's personally, this is not me just giving a committee report, but I think it doesn't feel as comfortable to have this very artistic woodcut and then have Town of Newmarket Conservation Commission, not to bias you, but it's just a dichotomy, I think, that there's this soft thing on nice cotton and then this other thing. I understand that it could be interesting, but if we wanted the word Conservation Commission, he can also make that in the woodcut.
I think the woodcut he did that says like Newmarket on it. Like,
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
does a really good job
He
with his
does,
lettering.
yeah.
It's a lot of letters.
It's a
though.
lot of letters.
That's a lot of letters.
So
to put around a
Newmarket
nice
Turtle
design.
Fest might,
That thing's, I
Suffice?
think that's enough.
I think Newmarket Turtle Fest 2025.
2025 is enough.
That sounds
Yeah.
perfect.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you for
Okay.
that input too. So we're
Yeah,
looking
so
for
we can,
$300?
should we say 350 for the, just to, so
Sure.
the t-shirts too, just we take care of
Up
this?
to-
for-
I know-
Well, 350, so it'd be his 300
Or more.
and graphic setup fee?
Yeah, we could do all of them now. We could just
I
say-
do like the idea of a tote bag.
I do too, and
Okay.
and Newmarket, the Lamprey Screen people have tote bags, but we don't need to, we can pick that out at the same time as we've settled, we could talk in December, how are we going to even get these shirts
Okay.
out to Joe Public?
All right, let's just do the 300 then tonight.
Just do the
Yeah.
300.
Okay, motion to approve 300 for John Herman.
For John
his
Herman.
design.
Make a
Colin,
motion.
all right, second?
Second.
Second, Chris, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So I can email him tonight, and he can
Okay.
start doing things. And just for interest sake, I can send you the pencil,
That'd be cool.
just a little graphite
Yeah.
thing I can
Yeah,
send
I'd
to you
love
in
to
the
see it.
meantime. So I'll send it to Ellen, and then she distributes it.
I've been telling-
One super quick thing that we ran into when we had the rain barrels is that we were not allowed to possess town-owned property outside of town-owned properties. Like, we bought a bunch of rain barrels and
Oh,
had
yeah,
to
you
store.
had 'em in people's
And had to
pat-
store them somewhere, right? Just in case we get a bunch of
Oh.
t-shirts and bags, we have to keep them like at town hall. or- So it's, when you're saying, how do we get them to people, like, once they buy them, I think you can take them, obviously, to your house and then give them to people, right? If they, but
This might tag on
We have
to
to
the
keep
next
them.
item, but we might be able to ask the library if this could be part of the partnership that they've got with us.
Yeah,
And
that's a good
Bridget
idea.
Probably could help us too.
Oh, Bridget, up in your office,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
already got a lot of
There
stuff
you
in
go.
it. Could you have some
Yeah.
t-shirts?
I was gonna say too, like, I don't know if like this is how the rules, but in Hudson, they sold t-shirts at the library for the conservation commission.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
That's great. Awesome, so we have a couple, so
Thank you.
the other, yeah, thanks. So the other budget, the item we have is we've confirmed New Hampshire Turtle Rescue, and they don't charge a fee, but they appreciate a donation, and they typically get $300 for doing a program. So they'll do a program with us on Saturday. But they also, the library was interested in them doing a program for them during the week with smaller people. And they're more than willing to do that, and so I thought it would be nice if we gave $300 for both, for two, the two programs, so $600. And my thought is that we put together our little funding needs, and maybe we need some other money, we can talk about that next month perhaps, but that we ask some targeted businesses if they'd like to support Turtle Fest 2025, and we could probably raise this money back. We're only talking, a couple $1,000 maybe.
Yeah.
Does that seem like it makes sense?
We just have to jump on that quickly, because May has project graduation, and the businesses are tapped for the high school seniors party, and the fishing derby fundraising is really big at that time of year too. But I think we're quite far ahead of things. If we got that letter out in January,
Yeah.
before February vacation time, I think we'll be in good shape.
And I'm thinking very specific, I have one donor that I think we could get, because they were going to give something for something else and we didn't need it, so I think we can think of a few businesses that we can. Okay, I don't know that we need to vote on that tonight, because we can put together we'll put together a more detailed budget sheet, but do you think of any other expenditures that we want to include? Do we want to provide coffee and food, or are we doing, do we want to maybe have a budget for some, and materials we're going to hand out, or whatever
Yeah.
distribution stuff, so we need to add some other funds. Or-
How
or-
much printing can come out of the Bridget's office?
You can do that, they usually cover, and you don't
Okay.
usually have to pay for printing, unless we're doing something fancy that we want to take to a printer. We
Yeah.
can pay for that. So we're at about 900, so we're at about 1,000 right now. Maybe another $500 for all sorts of. We could say like $500 for materials and some coffee and snacks. Does that seem like fair? Do we have a $1,500 budget for this?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then if we need more, we can think about that later, but, okay. So we'll put together a little budget, maybe like a little flyer that we give to specific businesses, and we'll look at that in December. I think we have enough time to do that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay?
cool. Like, do you want to support the refreshments? For $500, you can support the
Yeah, I can
refreshments.
think of a business we might ask if not looking at any people.
More like we need volunteers to serve the coffee.
Yeah. No, I think that's really cool. Everybody I talk to, like my peers in the wildlife community, they're like, wow, that sounds really cool. I think it's pretty innovative, so.
I've talked to a couple of parents at the elementary school, and they think it's cool that it's the weekend of Mother's Day. It's a fun thing.
Purposely,
Family
absolutely.
kind of a thing. So,
That's nice. The dads have the fishing derby. The dads have the fishing derby.
Yeah.
One thing Bart suggested is that we actually form a committee, because right now it's like Chris is working on some stuff, I'm doing some stuff, and, Bart and Bridget are available, and maybe we want to be able to do stuff outside this meeting. And
We should
so
acknowledge Julie's got the bird walk in the morning
Yeah,
before
Julie's doing
the
the
event
bird
starting.
walk.
She's not here to
She gonna do Wigan
Batter
Farm.
something back for that.
We have fishing game lined up and so forth. So, is there anybody else here that, if we can have 3 of us without having a quorum, so is there anybody else that would like to be on the team? We've got Bart
For what?
to sort of help plan in between our meetings. Because we should really still look at location. We need to decide, is this a good spot?
For Turtle Fest?
Yeah, yeah. And transportation, if we need to get people places. So just some of the logistics and maybe some more of this, business outreach and stuff. So, all right, so we'll have probably Bridget and Bart, maybe Lauren from the library, maybe Emma from the school. That might be our
That
team.
sounds good.
Okay.
Just the rest of you be thinking, what can I do that day? You talk about setup, or help clean up, or shepherd people, answering questions. Somebody can just man an information booth and say, oh, in the bird walk, that was an hour ago. But the next walk is after 12 noon with, what was it like? Legacy, Matt
Yeah.
Legacy. Josh Legacy, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Legacy.
You want to say?
What, go ahead.
Legacy.
Legacy.
Legacy, oh yeah, rhymes
Yeah,
with
you're the one that
legacy.
told us
Rhymes
legacy.
with
I'm sitting here going,
I've got that so
maybe
ingrained
not.
when he says legacy rhymes with legacy. Okay, legacy rhymes with his last name, isn't that weird?
It's another thing he rhymes with.
Cool, okay, so we'll move on. And then we had this conversation with the library, and you want to talk about that? Or?
Sure. The Newmarket Library, a great thing came from the conversation. Ellen and I went chit-chat with the children's librarian, Heather, who used to work at the rec department, and Lauren, who's the right-hand person of the library. She's not the assistant librarian, but that's the function she effectively serves. So we went in and said, oh, we've got these bookmarked, we'd like to do this, we'd like to have a book group, we'd like this, we'd like that, da-da-da. And then she said, you know what I can offer you? We've got space here that we've been wondering what to do with, some wall space, and here's a bookshelf. We'd like to offer you that as a permanent spot for Conservation Commission display area.
Cool.
So that's very cool. So that opens up, we can get, for instance, photos from the Historical Society, or artifacts, or solicit at some point photos from people, or ideas, or articles, or featured who's what doodads. We don't even know yet, but they were very excited to think that they were kind of the cornerstone for housing things from the Conservation Commission. So that's what this says, Conservation Commission display. So it should be not taxing. I think we kind of talked about maybe it's just twice a year that changes. So it's not like a revenue maker, like a big museum would say like, oh, here's our new exhibit, come see it. They're not trying to get foot traffic into the library. It's more like making sure every patron has a chance to see and be aware of what's going on with the Conservation Commission. Anything from trail maps to here's new trails to pat on the back, we got this grant money. Just another outlet to have people be able to really see what's going on here with the conservation group, and education and outreach, which is where the bookmarks can also come in. And thematically, the library said, in conjunction with the display, let us know what kind of things you would like as end-cap displays in the library, or other mini library events and whatnot. So there's a really strong collaboration and partnership reviving there a little bit. January, February, and March, another thing going on is a book group, book club, I guess you'd call it book club. Club sounds like, I'm in the book club. It's really a book conversation group, right? So we have tentatively 3 books chosen. Lauren is seeing how many of those are available. Their conservation theme. One is the title I forget, but it's the woman who rode the several thousand miles on the bicycle following migratory paths of monarch butterflies. That's one of them. So for instance, a couple of years ago, there was one where there were ecological and conservation themed books that ran for 4 months, early COVID days. So this is going to revive a Zoom or in person. The library's offered the space. And a consideration was, well, it's always going to close at 7 o'clock, but Lauren said, no, she works on Thursdays, or whatever day we decide. She's able to be there later if we wanted to stagger the start time a little bit. So that we really have to figure out like in a couple of weeks with the library so that we can like get out information, because we thought it's a nice wintertime thing for people to be able to do. And stereotypically, there's a lot of reading in the winter that's a little more different than beach reads, so we thought people might like to talk about some of the topics that go on and some of the education and outreach that we're hoping to keep fostering through the Conservation Commission.
One is the Cy Montgomery book on turtles.
Oh yes, duh.
So, yeah, we're trying to,
Eager Beaver
Yeah, that's a little detail, I think, in the book club, but yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Yeah.
Cy Montgomery's new book, and if you don't know, Cy lives in Hancock with her husband David, and they're both really excellent authors, so that's a draw, I think, to have the Cy Montgomery Turtle book kicking off and helping us keep putting out the idea that we've got Turtle Fest coming up.
Cool.
Very good. Yeah, a lot of great stuff going on. Anything else from anybody? We didn't talk about Boulder Trail, nothing updates on that.
No,
Yeah, just using it with your dogs.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right, great. Motion to adjourn?
so moved.
And don't
Alright.
panic.
All in favor,
say aye.
It's not right.
Yeah, I know,
Aye.
it's 20. Okay, I think that was adjourned, yes, everybody said, okay.
Well, nice to see you.